Hi folks, HR Funk here with a quick announcement before we start today's video. And I'm wearing this cool shirt that I got a while back from House of Pain to help me remember to tell all of you that I'm going to be at House of Pain Armament on Saturday, November the 11th, 2023. I'm going to get there at 9 o'clock in the morning. Doors will be open till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That's going to be on Veterans Day. If you're in the area, I hope you can stop by. We've been talking for a long time about having a get-together, and I finally got one scheduled, so it should be a great time. Again, that's going to be House of Pain Armament in Hayesville, Ohio, tiny village in Ashland County. If you're not familiar with the location, you can go to www.hopmunitions.com and find the address there, plug it into your map software, and that'll tell you all about how long it's going to take you to get there and what route to take. So now on with today's video. Hi folks, HR Funk here. With a first for the channel, what I have with me here today is a Ruger LC Carbine chambered for the 5.7 by 28mm NATO cartridge. And some of you have asked me for a while about getting a firearm in chambered for this cartridge, and I've got one here today. And in this video, we're going to take a close-up look at the LC Carbine. I'll tell you about its features and functions, and also, before it's all over, we'll head out to the range and see how it shoots. So here we go. A couple of quick points before we start the up-close look at the LC Carbine. This specific LC Carbine was loaned to me by my friend Frank, and my friend has made a couple of modifications to it as opposed to the way it came from the factory. And I will point those out as we go. The carbine basically is still the same. There's nothing internally that's been changed, so when we get to the shooting part, you'll see the type of accuracy you can expect and all of that. But I did want to make you aware before I got too in-depth with the review that this is not quite the way it was when it left the Ruger factory. And here is our first up-close look at the Ruger LC Carbine. As I said in the opening, this firearm is chambered for the 5.7 by 28mm NATO cartridge. This cartridge was originally developed in the early 1990s as a proposed replacement for the 9mm NATO handgun cartridge, and it never really quite reached that point. I do know of at least one Army Special Forces soldier who has used this cartridge operationally against real bad guys, and he does not have a lot of good things to say about its effectiveness. Nevertheless, I'm not going to spend a lot of time in the video debating the wisdom of this cartridge for anti-personnel use, because I think there are probably some other uses for it, maybe small game, maybe pests, maybe varmints, what have you, that this is probably going to work very well for, especially out of a firearm like the Ruger LC Carbine. So instead of talking about the cartridge, I'm going to spend the rest of the video talking about the Ruger LC Carbine itself. The LC Carbine operates on a straight blowback system, and it uses what Ruger calls the bolt-over-barrel design. Like virtually all straight blowback design firearms that fire a cartridge with any amount of energy whatsoever, it uses a very heavy bolt. In fact, this is a two-piece bolt, and the pressure of the recoil spring to keep the firearm in battery until the bullet has completely passed through the barrel and the pressure drops off to a safe level before everything opens up and the action starts to cycle. I point this out because when I hold this firearm in my hands, it feels heavy. The weight is rated at 5.9 pounds, unloaded with none of the accessories you see here, no optic, no nothing. And I've weighed this in its current state with the optic, with the other accessories that are on here. The weight is 6.9 pounds. So my friend Frank has added a pound to the weight with the things that he has put on the firearm. And that's not very heavy, so it must have to do with the way everything balances with that heavy bolt, actually that heavy two-piece bolt inside of the receiver when I pick this up, because as I said, it just feels heavy to me, and it's not really that heavy, so it's kind of odd. It almost seems like it defies physics in that regard. Forward of the ejection port here, we can see the non-reciprocating charging handle, and this is reversible. If you disassemble the LC Carbine, you can switch this to the other side. And this is the way my friend has it set up. I think if this were my carbine, I would probably have this on the other side, so I could keep the pistol grip in my shooting hand and charge the rifle and cycle the action with my non-shooting hand. Nevertheless, I'm not going to change it around because this is not my carbine, it's his. Both the receiver and the handguard are CNC machined from aluminum alloy. The handguard has M-lock attachment points at the 3, 6, and 9 o'clock positions, and there is a 1913 rail that runs the entire length of the top of the firearm, and the finish on the metal parts are Type 3 hard coat anodizing. The LC Carbine does come from the factory with Ruger's flip-up auxiliary sights. This is the aperture rear sight, obviously, and it is windage adjustable. And the front sight is also a flip-up unit, which is adjustable for elevation, although this is not the factory Ruger part. This is a Wilson Combat front sight with a tritium insert that was added by my friend Frank. One of the most popular aspects of the design of the LC Carbine is the fact that it is a side-folding design to help make the rifle, or I should say the carbine, a little more carryable. And I'm going to measure this because I'm not sure what the dimensions are when the stock is folded, as you see here. By the way, this is a Magpul stock, another addition of my friends. This is not the factory Ruger stock that you see here. So when it's folded, the LC Carbine has a length of about 22 inches, it would appear. So that definitely is going to make it a little bit more portable, especially if you're going to put it in something like a backpack. Now, as I alluded to a moment ago, the stock can be changed out with virtually any AR stock. So you can put your favorite stock on here. And also you can remove the entire folding apparatus. You can see here there is a section of 1913 rail on the very back. So you could remove this entire thing and replace it with pretty much anything you like, so long as it attaches with a 1913 rail. And the factory stock, as well as this Magpul unit, are fully adjustable for length of pull. And this is the 6-position stock that many of us are very familiar with. One other point about the stock before I move on, it is also reversible. So if you would rather have it fold on the right side of the receiver as opposed to the left side of the receiver, you can reverse the mechanism and it will fold on that side instead. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see the barrel down in there, but the barrel is a 16¼ inch fluted barrel. It's nitride treated. The rifling is a 1-turn in 9-inch 8-groove rifling twist, and it features a threaded muzzle, and the threads are 1/2 by 28 inch, and you can see my friend Frank has added a muzzle device of his own. He's got a flash hider on there, and if you have that type of a muzzle device or something else you want to add, it's going to be very easy to just screw it on there. The LC Carbine ships with one 20-round magazine, so insert my normal rant here about a firearm only coming with one magazine. And this is the same 20-round magazine as used by Ruger's 5.7 pistol. And the controls on the LC Carbine are also meant to more or less replicate the controls on the pistol. The safety, Ruger describes as 1911 style, and it is up for safe and down for fire. The magazine release on this side of the LC Carbine is somewhat different than that on the pistol. On the pistol, it is a push button. This is more of a rotating lever to release the magazine. And we can see that the safety is ambidextrous. This is the bolt stop. And this might not be real easy to do, but I managed it. And the bolt stop, or bolt release as the case may be, is not ambi. It is only on the left side of the carbine, so that cannot be reversed. The magazine well for the LC Carbine is located in the pistol grip, and on Ruger's website they make a point of stating that this design gives the LC Carbine excellent balance and pointability. Apparently that's opposed to having the magazine somewhere forward of the action in this area. I'll leave that up to all of you to decide for yourself, but it does at least keep this area open, so if you want to rest the carbine on something, it's unobstructed, or if you want to put your support hand anywhere along there, you can. In any case, as I said, the magazine well is back here in the pistol grip. The fire control of the LC Carbine features a protected internal hammer and a bladed trigger that you see right there that has the inertial style safety that we see on a lot of firearms these days. The trigger pull is not all that great. Let me do that again. You're going to notice there is some take up, and we have a very mushy stop, and then it's going to creep its way back to where it finally breaks. So this is not a match trigger by any stretch of the imagination. It's probably perfectly serviceable for the intended use of this carbine, but it's not going to impress any of you who have used some really good triggers. I am going to break out the Lyman trigger pull gauge and see if we can get a trigger pull weight on this trigger. All right, folks, let's see if we can get a trigger pull weight for the LC carbine. £4, 13.8 ounces. So it's not a great quality trigger pull, but at least it's not overly heavy. When unfolded, the LC carbine has an overall length of 30.6 inches. If the buttstock is all the way forward, the overall length becomes 28.7 inches. There is 2 inches of adjustability in that buttstock, so the length of pull is adjustable from 14.5 inches down to 12.5 inches. And the weight for the LC carbine is rated at 5 pounds 9 ounces. I believe I said that early on in the video. There is a QD sling attachment point on either side of the rear of the receiver, and also with the M-lock attachment points you can add another sling attachment point anywhere you might want along the hand guards. The MSRP for the LC carbine is $1,009. And again, I come back to the point that I made a while ago. That's over $1,000 and you get one magazine. And additional magazines are north of $50 a piece. So I really think for that price you should get at least 2, if not 3 magazines. And that's going to do it for the up-close shop review of the LC carbine. Now let's head out to the range and see how it shoots. And as you can see, I've arrived out on the range with the LC carbine, and I'm set up now on the rifle range because the first thing I wanted to do is an accuracy test, see what kind of accuracy this little carbine is capable of. And I'm going to be starting out with some Federal 40 grain American Eagle ammo, and I'm set up at a distance of 50 yards. And in just a couple of minutes I'm going to start shooting, and we'll see what kind of accuracy I can get from the LC carbine. And I've got other shooters on the range right now, folks, so I'm not going to be able to get my camera downrange to get the target view. So what I'll do is fire out 5 rounds from back here, then I'll go downrange when I can and show you the results on the target. Okay, I'll go downrange and pull that target and we'll see what it looks like. So this was the 5-shot group that I fired with the American Eagle 40 grain ammo. And I've got 4 shots that are in a nice tight group and one of them that I pulled low. I think a lot of this has to do with that mushy trigger that I was talking about back in the shop. It's just difficult to get a consistent trigger break, and I think that is the cause of that particular shot. I also switched over to the other type of ammunition that I have out here, and I fired this off camera. This is also a 40 grain load. It is Speer Gold Dot personal defense ammunition. And this is the 5-shot group with Speer ammunition. Again, we've got kind of some vertical stringing there. I think a lot of this has to do with the trigger. Even so, from 50 yards, those are both going to be acceptable accuracy for most applications. It's not pinpoint varmint accuracy that you might need for long range shooting, but it's not bad either. So now let's move on to some other drills. Next up, I'm going to do some CQB work with the LC carbine. Now, as I said, the 5.7 by 28 NATO cartridge was originally developed as a replacement for the 9mm handgun cartridge for, I presume, both handguns and submachine guns. So it seems appropriate to do some close-in work with it that you would do with handguns and submachine guns. But before I get into that, I want to mention that I just now loaded up this magazine to a full 20-round capacity, and I want to test the functioning with a full magazine as I shoot these drills. And the first 14 or so rounds went into the magazine pretty easily, but the last 5 or 6 were pretty difficult to get in there. And I'm curious, since it was so stiff, if there's going to be any problem feeding the top cartridge with that fully compressed magazine spring. So I'm going to do that on camera and see what happens. And there was no problem feeding it whatsoever. So that's good. Now, first up is going to be some controlled pairs from a distance of 5 yards. Let's see how that goes. And there was a malfunction on that drill. This is the 40 grain American Eagle load. And it looks like a failure to extract. Let's see if we can figure this out. The magazine column did not rise up in the magazine. So again, that spring seems to have an issue. See if I can clear this cartridge casing out of here. And I was wrong. It did extract and eject the fired cartridge, but it failed to feed the next cartridge out of the magazine. So now I'll move on with this drill and finish it out with the rest of the magazine and see if we have any more problems with it. And it helps if you charge it. So it doesn't seem like there's any more problems feeding those. Not sure how many rounds I have left. I'm not going to fire out the full magazine on this drill, but I'm going to keep an eye on that. And in fact, I'm going to switch to a different magazine, fill it all the way up with 20 rounds, and see if that problem repeats itself. By the way, folks, the accuracy that I got with those shots that I was firing from that distance of 5 yards was very, very good. It was not difficult to keep them in the center of the chest, even though I wasn't even trying that hard. I was thinking more about the functioning of the LC carbine than I was actually my shooting. Most of those shots are on the heart, the other one's in the lung, one of them's in the spine. So again, I'm not feeling bad at that at all. Next up, I'm going to try some failure drills from a distance of 7 yards. And before I fire these failure drills, I want to mention that this second magazine was much easier to load than the first one. So I don't know if there's an issue with that magazine, and maybe that's what caused that initial malfunction, but we'll see what the functioning looks like this time around. And no, once again, I got a first round malfunction. Let's see what this one is. This one failed to eject the fired cartridge. In fact, I don't think it ever made it back completely out of the chamber to get to the ejector to kick it out of the rifle, or the carbine rather. So this is strange, and I'm not sure what to make of this. I thought that was going to be a magazine issue, but perhaps not. At least it was a good shot, dead center in the heart. So it seems like after the first couple of shots, or I should say after the first shot, when that magazine spring is not under full compression, the functioning is fine. But for that very first shot with 20 rounds loaded into the magazine, it has some issues until you get past that. I'm going to paste up these targets, or these holes rather, in a target. We'll take a close-up look at the target, then I'll move on to a different drill. So this is one of those days at the range, folks. That time, I forgot to activate my target camera. The red stickers indicate the location of those shots. They were very good. All but one shot that were fired to the body are on the heart. One of them was just below the heart, right dead center in the spine. The headshots were all on the nose except for this one that was just below the nose. So the accuracy continues to look very good on these drills, but the functioning is kind of questionable. So folks, it's probably worth noting that both of those malfunctions occurred with the Federal American Eagle ammunition. I'm now loaded up with 20 rounds of the Speer Gold Dot personal defense ammunition, so we'll see how it functions as I work my way through this next drill. I'm going to back off to a distance of 15 yards and fire some shots from there, and we'll see how that goes. Same thing, first round malfunction. And again, it did not cycle the bolt even with the Speer Gold Dot ammo. And after that first round, everything seems to run fine. I'm going to back off to 25 yards and try it again. So I loaded up again with 20 rounds. I didn't go back all the way to 25 yards because had I done that, I'd be standing in a shadow and you wouldn't be able to see me on the video. So my body shots from both 15 yards and 25 yards are staying well centered. I was pulling those 15-yard headshots off to the right a little bit. It looks like from 25 yards I had them a little bit more well centered. And that's just me. But the functioning of this rifle is more of a concern to me right now than the accuracy. The accuracy looks very good. Moment of truth, folks, is the Ruger LC Carbine a 7-yard tack driver. I've got a tack in the target. I've got 3 rounds loaded into the carbine. I'm backed off to a distance of 7 yards, so let's find out. And I am not sure at all why that shot hit so low. I was holding over, expecting the shot to hit low because of the offset of the sight. Looks like my windage was pretty good, so I'll hold a little higher for shot number 2. I'm sneaking up on it. I got one more shot. Now hold this one a little bit higher yet. And no, I am not going to be able to drive a tack with the LC Carbine. So final thoughts on the LC Carbine. To be perfectly blunt, folks, I'm kind of disappointed in it. And not just because of the tack shot. In fact, that really doesn't even factor into it. Those malfunctions that I'm seeing with a full magazine, I think what's happening with those is when the magazine spring is under full compression, it's bearing that top cartridge against the bottom of the bolt and impeding the cycling of the bolt somewhat, which is why the first time I had the malfunction, the cartridge case managed to extract and eject, but there was not enough movement in the bolt to properly feed that next cartridge case out of the, or next cartridge rather, out of the magazine. And then the other malfunctions I had, the bolt did not even move far enough to completely extract and eject that fired cartridge case. So I think that's what's going on. Maybe that will improve with time and some wear on those magazine springs if they take a little bit of a set. But still, for $1,000 MSRP, this thing ought to function right out of the box, and it's not. Beyond that, the shooting experience is not bad. The accuracy is very, very good, despite the tack shot. From what I was seeing shooting at 50 yards and from what I was seeing shooting through the defensive drills, I don't think there's any problem whatsoever with the accuracy. The overall handling characteristics seem like they're lacking a little bit of refinement, I think is the best way that I can say it. This bolt is heavy, as I mentioned back when I was doing the shop review, and I'm probably going to have to stop and wait for the train to pass, or all you're going to hear is the train whistle. So let me stop this and I'll start back up in a moment. So now the train has passed and I can go on with my final thoughts. The shooting experience, as I was saying before with this, is not unpleasant, but what I notice is with this heavy bolt that I talked about back in the shop, there is a lot of reciprocating mass. So although it's not a sharp recoil, you do get some push as that bolt bottoms out, and then on the counter recoil phase, you get a little bit of a pull forward. It's not drastically less than you would get with an AR-15, although there's significantly less muzzle blast, that's for sure. I noticed that when I'm shooting the 5.7x28. But here again, for the MSRP of this firearm and for what you can buy a decent AR for these days, I don't know. I'm not sure that the cartridge really justifies the increase in price. The performance that I saw from it, like I said, accuracy-wise was good. I don't want to get shot with the thing. As I said, the one Army Special Forces soldier I know who has used it operationally isn't real crazy about it, but I'm sure that with the bullet placed in the right area on the human body, it's going to be effective enough. That said, again, does it give you anything we don't have in a little bit more conventional cartridge that costs a little bit less? I don't know. I think I'm just going to have to throw that out there and leave it up to all of you, and you can let me know your thoughts. In any case, this was my review on the Ruger LCP Carbine. If you have any questions or comments, as always, make sure you forward those to me. Remember, if you purchase anything from Optics Planet, be sure to use my discount code, which is... And if you use that discount code, it's good for 7% off your purchase from Optics Planet. Also, remember the discount code from Hot Munitions. If you go to House of Pain, you can use my discount code there for either House of Pain Munitions or House of Pain Armament, which is HRFUNK10, and that'll save you 10% off your purchase. Last but not least is the Target sponsor for the channel. Go to Target's online, check out their inventory, and see if they have anything that's going to meet your Target needs. See you next time, folks. And until then, good shooting. Bye-bye.